Number one Ibble Dibble here. Hello, friends, and welcome to my new mini-series, Single Skillet Spaghetti. No. Sorting the Sentebale scandal. That's it. Have you been keeping up with the Sentebale scandal? I have read every article, watched every interview, read the annual reports, dug into everyone mentioned, and put these, shall we say, varying recollections of all involved who have publicly discussed the matter on a timeline to try to figure out what really happened when. I'll try to outline that for you as quickly as possible, though I believe it will be a bit of a slog. So I don't know how many videos will be in this series. Sorry. Also, this topic, or at least today's portion of it, doesn't really lend itself to visuals, so this is a listen-only video. I'll throw up a pertinent chart here or there, but there's no need to look at your screen. I've seen a lot of tiresome play-by-play reporting characterizing this as some sort of he said, she said row, and that doesn't align with my lived experience. For a dispute to get this ugly this publicly, it's not he said, she said, it's he sucks, she sucks. In my opinion, these two are both wrong, and their willingness to fight to the last donor is abhorrent. So let's get started. It's obviously impossible to understand personal and organizational dynamics without knowing the people interacting within the system and structure of the organization. I think it's especially important to look at everyone involved here because of the identity politics being played and extremely unsavory accusations being made. They may be French, but j'accuse are possibly the strongest words in the English language. Chapter 1, wherein I answer the question, how financially fit was Sentebale before Sophie? First, we need to understand the size and structure of the organization, the game board, if you will. Sentebale is a surprisingly small charity relative to its name recognition. The most money they've ever raised in a year is £4.6 million, but over the past decade, up to 2023 anyway, those are the most recent filings the public has access to, they've averaged closer to £3.5 million. For perspective, that's about 1/20th the size of the King's Trust, less than 100th the size of Oxfam, and just 2,000ths the size of Save the Children. The scale is very much personal vanity project, Harry's vanity and Sophie's vanity, not intergenerational socioeconomic game changer, not geopolitical soft power battleground. That is not to detract in any way from what they do and the positive impact they make. It's simply to say, were they to disappear tomorrow, another charity very well could and may step in right where they left off. In terms of sources of income, the polo matches typically raised $1 million or $1.5 million, corporate and private donors an additional $1 million or $1.5 million, and Prince Harry would top up. Over 20 years, donors have come and gone as they do, and income has varied rather directly with how much Harry feels like working. There's no doubt that as time has pressed on, donors hoping to curry favor with British high society have vanished, and Harry has tried to make up some of the difference personally by donating proceeds from Spare, etc. There's simply no question that it is and always has been a vanity project for Harry. I don't necessarily think that's a problem. Celebrity and royal charities have always been funded by people hoping to hobnob with celebrities and royalty. And when people donate, they get what's on the tin, whatever that's worth to them. It's notable that while the cost of fundraising has always been an acceptably low ratio, the cost of charitable programming did exceed income in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and again in 2023. Big event years like 2016 and 2019, with widely publicized polo cups and international itineraries, did have a less good ratio, but still not awful ratios. The worst year on record is 2016. The cost of fundraising was just over 35% of income generated. There are rumors that taking Megan's bad advice to jack up sponsorship prices cost them around $500,000 in their relationship with Audi, but who knows? It is worth noting that the ratio of money spent to money earned was improving over time before Sophie arrived as chairwoman and her hire, Carmel, who we'll meet soon, arrived as interim CEO. In 2019, it was 34%, in 2022, just under 23%, and in 2023, just over 10%. Below 35% is the generally accepted standard within the industry. In countries like Canada, for example, ratios above 35% attract regulatory scrutiny, and anything over 70% is shut it down today territory. In the UK, there's no specific number, but the Charity Commission regulatory rules about uncharacteristically large expenditures and reserves are quite specific. And as we know, whistleblowers are relied upon to report wrongdoing. In terms of salaries, the trustees receive zero remuneration. There are 4 key management roles: the CEO, the COO slash director of fundraising, the country director for Lesotho, and the country director for Botswana. Please note that I believe this has substantively changed after Sophie Chandoka's takeover. I believe it was consolidated into 3 main managerial roles, with the CEO also overseeing operations and fundraising, but more of all responsibilities being distributed more evenly to the country heads. However, we simply do not have the records for it. The CEO was paid between 120 and 130,000 pounds. One country head was paid between 60 and 70,000 pounds, and the other between 80 and 90,000 pounds. Total employee spend was 1.336 million. So less those managerial salaries, that averages out to 10,202 pounds per. There were in 2023 107 employees total, including 2 working in London who make less than 60,000 pounds per year, but presumably more than that average, which would drag down the average salary even farther for the on-the-ground African employees. Do they need 107 employees? I don't know their programs well enough to say. They did cut headcount by almost 20%, going from 127 employees in 2022 to 107 in 2023, but none of the employees they do have are being paid exorbitantly at all. One thing I found interesting in Sophie's Trevor Phillips interview is that she kind of tried to make it seem like Sentebale was a lot bigger than it is.
Of the entire Sentebale organization, 540 strong.
Is she counting volunteers? Because she couldn't have possibly 4 or 5x the headcount in 18 months. Not least because all remuneration levels are proposed by the CEO and approved or not approved by the board. So, does Sentebale pay for Harry's polo trousers? Probably. Does someone's cousin in Botswana get paid to shift paper around a community center unnecessarily 3 times a week? Probably. But there's no cartoonish level of corruption going on here unless it's happened over the past year. There was an external financial audit done, the results of which were published in the 2023 filings. They passed. Quote, "We have not identified any material uncertainties relating to events or conditions that individually or collectively may cast significant doubt on the charitable company's ability to continue as a going concern for a period of at least 12 months from when the financial statements are authorized for issue." End quote. That's boilerplate language. Continuing, quote, "We have not identified material misstatements in the trustees' report. We have nothing to report in respect of the following matters in relation to which the Companies Act 2006 requires us to report to you. Number 1, adequate accounting records have not been kept. or received. Number 2, financial statements are not in agreement with the accounting records and returns. Number 3, certain disclosures of trustees' remuneration specified by law are not made. Or number 4, we have not received all information and explanations we require for the audit. Number 5, the trustees were not entitled to prepare the financial statements in accordance with the small companies regime. In other words, none of that happened. Everything was fine. The annual report for 2023 was published in March 2024, which makes the timing of this whole implosion, exactly a year later, suspicious indeed. Sophie has widely decried, to quote her statement, quote, issues of poor governance and weak executive management, unquote. That's simply not evident here, and anything since happened on her watch. She's saying Prince Harry sabotaged her with donors, but that would require he have the intelligence, energy, and desire to do so, which I don't believe he has. What about you?
You said that Prince Harry wanted to, I'm quoting here, force the failure of the charity. Why on earth would he want a charity he founded in memory of his mother to fail? To be honest, it's a last resort. Really, what Prince Harry wanted to do was to eject me from the organization, and this went on for months. It went on for months through bullying, harassment. I have documentation. When that failed, Prince Harry started to brief, and his team, sponsors that I'd been speaking to against me and the charity, because that is a sure way of getting me out if it's seen as though I'm not being successful in my fundraising efforts.
She's calling herself a whistleblower, but I'm not convinced that's true unless it's true mostly regarding the other stuff. The harassment, the bullying, the sexism, the racism, whatever. And I would love to see that evidence. Because the example she gives of quote unquote bullying at scale is Princes Harry and Say-So releasing the statement that they are temporarily stepping back from Sentebale.
Yes. What you're essentially saying is that the Duke of Sussex is guilty of harassment and bullying and improper conduct in the governance of a charity. Well, let me put it to you this way. I'm going to give you a really good example. The only reason I'm here is because at some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authorized the release of a damaging piece of news to the outside world without informing me, all my country directors, all my executive directors. And can you imagine what that attack has done for me, on me, and the 540 individuals in the Sentebale organizations and their family? That is an example of harassment and bullying at scale. And so if the world didn't want to believe that there's such a thing as bullying, this unleashing of the Sussex machine on me and the 540 employees at Sentebale who received this and have had to defend it.
Did she expect them to walk away silently? They've been the founders and faces of the organization for 20 years. They have to say something. And in the next breath, she admits they did give her advance warning.
You were not told that he planned and the Princesa planned to resign. We were informed that they have the intention to withdraw if I went to the High Court and succeeded.
Succeeded in what? Notice how cagey she's being with her language. She is a solicitor. This is not a mistake. Notice that she did not say if she went to the High Court in the first place. She is trying to frame this as if they issued an illegal retaliatory threat for whistleblowing, which they did not by her own admission. They did not threaten to resign if she reported them to the court and the Charity Commission. That would be illegal. They said they would resign if she received an injunction, obviously. And she did. Guess what happens when an injunction comes through? Everything stops. Everyone involved is usually put on administrative leave while the matter is investigated. Harry, Say-So, and the trustees are only insured by Sentebale against malfeasance to the tune of less than £1,000 each, in addition to the financial and reputational cost of putting up a defense. Continuing to participate in Sentebale while this was all litigated would essentially just freeze the organization for years in a manner from which it would likely never recover. She knows that. I'm sure she did enough M&As to plan a hostile takeover. She usurped them. She won. Congrats. I'm guessing trying to win in the court of public opinion by appealing to the lowest common denominator with accusations of isms and ists is what she feels she must do to keep them gone. Because if it was really about protecting the organization and its reputation and employees, as she claims, she would pretend it was an amicable split. They're welcome back anytime. They might surprise the donors at an event here or there. It's all just growing pains, so on and so forth. I'm not a judge. But to me, this is actually a terrible example of harassment and bullying. Maybe she has better examples we don't know about that she doesn't feel comfortable broadcasting for some reason. If that's the case, by all means, nail him to the cross. Love to see it. I would love to get an update on that. But as things stand, based on everything we already know, I'm not totally buying what she's selling. My guess is that she mostly usurps them to furnish her own image and monopolize control, but also partially to cover up the fact that she wasn't really successful in her role this past year, and also to attract a new type of donor that this identity politics storyline might appeal to. She certainly has used this opportunity to really pop out on the world stage. The question is, what next? Sorry to be really harsh. Coffee is for closers. Let's say it's true. Tweedledum Harry called his friends and told them to close their checkbooks. Well, where are the African billionaire families and institutional donors you said you could deliver? Where are they? Sophie founded a company literally called the Network of Networks to, quote, support companies in advancing racial and ethnic minority professionals throughout the ranks of corporate environments, end quote. And she can't work her phone book for $2 million when it really counts? Yeah, my suspicion is that what she's saying in interviews is substantively different than what, as a financial attorney, she knows she actually has a leg to stand on in her application to the Charity Commission. I actually don't see anything untowards in their annual report, with one exception. Following the list of the three most significant risks in this reporting period, there's a single sentence in bold that reads, quote, beyond the responses and mitigations mentioned above, we have invested in crisis management professionals, and we also have in place a crisis management plan for public relations crises, end quote. The total price of this PR is not specified. It appears to have been lumped into fundraising costs. And I wonder if these aren't the consultants the resigned trustees swear Sophie hired and she swears she didn't hire. It's a pretty strange issue to get confused, right? Did you hire consultants or didn't you? She says she didn't, but a spokesperson for Sentebale backtracks and admits they did. Were there more consultants later? Were these PR people working for Sentebale, working for the children, or were they working for Harry? Or were they working for Sophie? I'd love to know. I presume Harry and Meghan tried to commandeer their services for free, and totally agree with Sophie that she should never herself perform any public relations duties for Harry and Meghan or set the precedent for anyone at Sentebale to do so. That said, where are they now? Where are the crisis PR people? Did someone refuse to pay their retainer in January? This is doubtless the biggest PR crisis Sentebale has ever faced. Where are they? Overall, I would not characterize Sentebale as inefficient, but rather as overambitious. It's great to expand into new regions, help more children in more ways, but not if you can't afford to. The financial situation I've been analyzing is from their last public filings for the year 2023. So Johnny Hornsby was chairman of the board until Sophie was elected in July, and Richard Miller was CEO the entire time. Carmel Gaillard, Sophie's pick, and his replacement didn't take over this role until just a couple months ago, and they described their finances thus. Quote, "The financial year ahead marks the halfway point of our current strategy, so a midterm review will take place. Institutionally funded programs over the last 5 years have been doubled. The Youth Hub program, funded by the Global Fund and the SUTU, is due for renewal at the end of March 2024, and we hope for continued funding." They did get it. With the appointment, Dr. Sophie Chandauka, MBE, member of the British Empire, in July 2023, as our chair of the board, we are focused on building greater awareness of our organization across geographic borders and with new types of funders. A focus on the increase of unrestricted fundraising as a top priority to allow for innovation and trial of much needed programming. We will continue to strengthen our internal policies and procedures to manage all potential risks and remain in good order to win new funding, end quote. So to summarize, Richard Miller had done a very good job of getting things lean. Harry had done the right thing by making up for his waning popularity with bigger personal donations. There was confusion about how to attract additional institutional and corporate funding. There was indecision over where to pursue that funding. Sophie's job was to get it. We don't know because obviously the filings have not been made yet, but everyone is in agreement that she failed to do so. And the question everybody seems to be asking is, whose fault is that? With people on Sophie's side, I guess, saying Harry and Meghan are a toxic brand, and people on Harry's side, I guess, saying Sophie's identity politics are a toxic brand. Why not both? Why not both? They're both toxic brands. And to be clear, I'm not talking about who's right, who's wrong, or who was wronged. I'm just saying none of this inspires people to open their checkbooks. And who knows how long they've been acting up for. Relying on the waxing and waning of the reputations of aging princes is not a growth model. Nor is relying on the chairwoman eager to point fingers when the coffers run dry. I don't know if Sentebale has any chance of surviving this, but if they're going to try, they need fresh blood. They need someone new. They need someone good at this. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. In the next chapter, I will be digging deep into each of the players, evaluating their reputations and CVs. I do hope you join me. Meanwhile, let me know in the comments below. Who do you think is trying to cover up what? Let me know. Toodles! Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.